Today, we're talking sales and marketing inside the incentive program. Before we get into that, and Brooke does a quick intro, I'm going to steal a couple of lines from the Partner Hacker Handbook. I actually just got this. It's free. I think it's free.
It's good. It's a good resource. Yeah.
And I just started it, but at the beginning of the book in 2006, there's a statement in there being that data was the new oil, right? Like when Facebook and Amazon and Salesforce kind of amalgamated all this data, and there's all this data available and people monetized it.
Right.
And then now we're kind of living in a world it feels more of a world polluted with data, right? There's so much information. Yeah. So it's difficult to find what's actionable and what's relevant. And again, I'm here with Brooke. I'll let Brooke introduce himself. We're going to talk about sales and marketing, how we can, find some actionable things to do to bridge the gap that way.
Yeah, and the best practices around it, it's true. I mean, there is so much data around there. We'll talk about my data a little bit. So my name is Brooke Friendly, Vice President of Marketing at ChannelAssist. Been here for over 4 years working with Paul and team. But as you can see from my beard, I have over 25 years experience in creative services, developing campaigns for digital, for email, for web, radio, national scale programs. But really excited today, and as Paul alluded to, talk about how sales and marketing align in terms of utilizing data to get that complete picture of channel incentive programs. And so let me start off with a question for you, Paul. So when you're talking to prospects, what is their main pain point when it comes to data? When you're actually speaking to them and talking about channel incentive programs, what would you say? Is that their main pain point, and what are the issues surrounding that?
It's one of them, right? There's a number of problems, but again, what we hear most often when it comes to data from our current customers, from our prospective customers, anyone we talk to, is people just don't know. At that channel sales rep level. So when you think about your partners, you've got your top performers, you've got great relationships with maybe the executive team, and they understand your solution and they're selling it. But in this era of ecosystem and getting away from transactional business to things as a service,
right?
Why are reps not selling? And as often as you want them to. And I've had customers ask me, one of our biggest problems is, how come, we can't quite nail on the head why we're not at the table as often as we should be? So the first thing that, we often recommend, and I think a lot of people do, but maybe not as often, but in the terms of an incentive program, think about a crisp definition of your business goals. What is it that you want to get out of this? Number one,
right?
Don't try to boil the ocean. And it's really, a three-step process that we think. We have a centralized solution, or anybody out there who's using a data aggregator to collect information, you need to communicate to salespeople, and you need to pay them. That's number one. That's not a mind blower. Sure. I think we all know salespeople, we need to be paid. Yeah. Number two, once you collect that information, you have it. But the most critical piece that's difficult for a lot of organizations is, now that I have this information, it's timely in the way that you then execute. Right? Because, you can collect information in January, but if you're, unfortunately don't have not enough resources to execute until March.
Well, right? It's interesting.
Couldn't have that impact.
It's interesting how you say that. It's interesting how you say that, because a lot of organizations, what we have found in our experience is they take this ad hoc approach when they're talking about data, and everyone has centralized platforms. We sell a centralized platform, and other organizations have them, but it's ad hoc in the sense that what's happening is that there's all, like you mentioned earlier, there's all this data that's flying around out there, but are you taking that data, are you taking that information so that you can action it? So that when it comes to, let's say, the marketing perspective, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about, different case studies in terms of what we've done with different organizations. But for example, lots of people, they use email metrics as an example of how well their marketing programs are going. Well, our open rate was fantastic. Okay, that's one metric. My more important question is, what was the click-through rate? So they opened that email, but did they click on your call to action, for example? Where is the data point there? That's more important to me as an example. When I'm doing an engagement program, I'm running a campaign for my channel incentive program for my client. If I have a high open rate, great. But if they're not clicking on the content, if they're not downloading that eligible SKU list, if they're not downloading that spiff offer, it doesn't matter. So understanding that data, the whole perspective, and then when you find out, wow, they didn't click on it, what can we do now? How can we turn that around? So it goes for both sales and marketing. But I know you want to talk a little bit about one of our retail clients who had a similar sort of issue.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is, like, me as a salesperson, you as the marketer, how do you know what that next campaign looks like? There is a lot of guesswork. There's a lot of, I think, reps or my partners will receive this well. So to your point, before that gets to you as a sales rep and people out there who have channel account managers, leverage your resources, but get out there and talk to those individual reps. That's one thing. And then we've got some tools I think Brooke's going to talk about. But here's an example or a quick story that we recently went through with one of our retail clients. We have a very large customer who manufactures products, sells through retail. They have multiple products,
right?
But they have a luxury line. And this luxury line they've identified as something that is not performing as well as they wanted it to. So business problem, they've articulated it well. And what they realized was they were losing market share to some of their biggest competitors. So we created, as one of the tools, and I'll let Brooke elaborate on this a little bit probably, is something as simple as a poll or a survey. So an incentivized one. So pay them for it, pay them for this information. And ask these reps, what are customers saying when they come in the door when they're looking for this product? Are they mentioning you? Are they looking for a competitor? Are they even aware of what is being offered? And 9 times out of 10, customers either are not aware or the rep's not trained to understand what that solution looks like and can articulate it well and sell it. So there's always things that you can glean from these surveys.
Yep.
And then to your point, Brooke, once that data is captured from the sales team, send it back to someone like you so that you can create something. So maybe tell us what do those tools look like?
Well, I'm going to pick it back on what you just said. So this is what's exciting, which is great. And what I love about, for example, surveys and polls and how valuable they are. You actually get 2 sides of the coin. So you're getting information to find out, number one, what your customers are telling you so that you can then create campaigns to drive that engagement for that specific product or solution that they're looking for. But number 2, you're also finding out what's selling well already. Twofold. So now you're designing an incentive program and you're going back to your client. You don't have to necessarily spiff a specific product or solution that's already selling well. You don't have to. You have that data now. You know that the customers are already coming in, they're buying this product and service. But then you also find out that, well, there is a specific product that they're not selling well. Great, so that's one data point. Okay, so now we have to devise an incentive campaign around that product and service, but now it gets further. Are they not selling it because the price is not right? Because there isn't a need for it? Or maybe the reps aren't trained. Maybe they don't have education. So when we do polls and surveys, it's not just about, well, can you tell us about what you'd like to sell or what your customers are telling you? We ask those questions, but we're also asking, do you have enough information to sell that product or service? Would a spiff or an incentive help you watch a training module, for example? This is the kind of data that we want to collect continuously through polls, through surveys, so that we can then have this feedback loop going back to the client and saying, look, you've got customers coming in, they want to buy a certain product, but your sales reps are not educated on it. Let's now come up with that incentive program to train them. So like Paul said in the beginning, you don't have to spiff everything, but you need to understand from the data that you're aggrandizing, that you're getting, to then make those better solutions and those better practices for your client. So 2 sides of a coin. So it's not just what's selling, what's not. Are they actually, how are they engaging as well?
Yeah, I like to think about it as like a cheesy analogy. Picture you're in a dark room, and in that dark room, there's multiple ways to escape.
Right.
Oftentimes, partner sellers or partners, they've got a flashlight, they beam their light down one path because that's the way that they know. That's what they've been trained on. That's what they're confident in selling.
Right.
In order for somebody to turn that light somewhere else and to focus down that pathway, which could be far more beneficial, to your point, to that one side of the coin, do they have the right training? Was it timely? Is it identifying opportunity? Is the incentive aligned with what they're trying to sell that's going to move the needle forward? So it's important, back to the timing resource aspect, as well as making sure that you can actually execute.
Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah.
No, if you want to finish, but I have a shameless plug.
Well, before the shameless plug, so when we talk about marketing and content marketing in general, typically what we're looking to do as a creative services team and as a marketer, we have a strategy that we put in place for our content marketing, but then we talk about the format, the content type, the platform, the metrics, and then what are our goals? And this is very specific to our client. So if you think about the format, so you could have an article or a video or information that you're doing through a campaign, and then what's the content type? Is it a how-to video? Or is it a 5 easy step informative paper? And then the platform that you're putting it on. So are you sending it through social media or through an email campaign or on the website? But then it gets into the metrics and the data, okay? So are you interested in understanding how many downloads of a certain call to action? Are you interested in page views? Are you interested in, the number of leads that are coming in, the sales? So if you're a client, you're looking to build this engagement incentive program and you want a certain number of sales. And then what is that goal? That's the end point. So the goal being, okay, we want X number of sales at the end of the day. So all of this figures into, and so the data that we collect initially, what Paul mentioned, understanding the persona, understanding that target market, the reps, the information that they've collected from their clients so that we can build these campaigns. And then now we develop these campaigns and these incentives. We send it out there into the ether, into the ecosystem. And now we're collecting all these data points, because here's the most valuable point of this rant. You can have the greatest ideas. I love to think, and our team loves to think, we have the best ideas. Oh my God, we've done all our research. We've done all our strategy. We put together this great themed World Cup incentive and we sent it out. And of course, we're going to get amazing results. And we want them to click on this video to watch this hype video so that they're going to then do the spiff. And then what if we don't look at the results? That's what a lot of programs do. They just put incentives out there and hope that it's going to work well. That's not what we do. Best practice
I think there's a lot of resource problems, constraints. Like there's a lot of people out there who run incentives, who run great ideas and campaigns. But again, back to the point of, you need to understand the data at the end to actually be able to action it. So, can you give some, not to put you on the spot, but any ideas of kind of how you use your resources to?
I was about to. You just kiboshed my flow, my friend. I'm just joking. Yeah. Of course. So to that point, when we put out a campaign, let's use video as the perfect example. So we have a video. We want someone to watch a video, and we have a call to action in our video, and we put that in through an email campaign. Most people, they will put it out there and hope that they get views, etc. We have a tool that we utilize where we not only are seeing who's engaging with the videos, clicked on it, but what their watch engagement is. We actually know, let's say the video is a minute long, okay? We know when the viewer has stopped watching that video. So you have 100% at the 0-second mark, and then you're down to 20% engagement at the 22-second mark, meaning that 80% of your folks have dropped off after 22 seconds. Very important data. 2 reasons. Number one, your video is probably not that great. They're not watching it to the end. So you may want to rethink what that video should look like, et cetera. But here's the most important part. We tend to put call to actions. A lot of people put call to actions at the end of videos. Click here for more information. Click here to join our webinar. If you know that they're dropping off at the 20-second mark, guess what? Move your call to action up earlier. It's now at the 10-second mark. So we are always gathering, but we're not waiting, by the way, the whole month to find out of that campaign to see what's working. Daily, we're checking to find out, make those tweaks, send it out, etc. So that's just one example of what we do today for our clients. where we're understanding, we're putting out a campaign based on strategy, based on the initial data for engagement. And then once we start getting that information back, that data back, how do we adjust to move forward to ensure that that engagement is high and obviously are beneficial to our clients? That's just one example.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great example. So just to recap on that whole thing is, number one, when you're asking for information, pay people for it. There's got to be a reason why someone's going to give you something. So number two, once you've collected that information, that you have the right resources and the right plan and objective, like you just finished explaining, to actually execute, to get extract the benefits from it. So then you can not just do one campaign, but repeat it over and over and over again.
Yes, that's great. And I would also say that there's one thing that is most important. It's the type of beverage that you bring to a webinar. So I just want to say that I'm enjoying a watered down margarita, believe it or not. It is a lime margarita. And Paul, I know you have a beverage it's important why we're bringing this up for a specific reason. Do you want to tell everyone what you're
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Brooke.
Yeah, no, I know, but you do have a beverage there.
Yeah, so recently got married, and we took a quick, during our shenanigans and adventures, we made a smoked maple old fashioned. It's delicious. We're going to include a couple of these recipes in the comments below when we post this.
See, we know
it's perfect for fall and winter.
See, we love call to actions and we love giving things away. So we're going to be giving those recipes away, as well as some ideas that you can utilize for future. So if you're talking to clients and you understand, we're going to show you how, when we send out a poll or a survey to gather information, those data points that help us design those incentive programs, we're going to send you an example of how we do it to show you that. And as well, we're going to tomorrow send out a brief questionnaire. And if you answer the questions to help us get us some data points on what's working for you in your channel programs, there's also a surprise for you as well. So take a look for that, and that'll be coming very soon. I know this was just a brief 20-minute webinar. So with that, I'm going to sort of push it back to Lucy to see if there's any questions and that we can answer. And then if not, then everyone is on their way to enjoy the rest of their day.
Yep.
Lucy?
Yeah. Hi. There's one question. This one asks, what are the best practices in using channel program or incentive sales and marketing data to qualify a theory like an A/B test, or what you are hearing from your field team or the latest partner voice are telling us?
Okay, so we both can answer that, Paul. Do you want to start first, because it's both sales and marketing, or do you want me to go first on that?
Yeah, if you want to start off, I'm just rereading it here. Or Lucy, can you quickly read it again?
Yeah. What are the best practices in using channel program or incentive sales and marketing data to qualify a theory like an A/B test, or what you are hearing from your field team or the loudest partner voices are telling us?
So, and we'll both answer. So, my opinion is that it's obviously A/B test is a tactic. So when you do any sort of marketing campaign, you typically will run A/B tests, so you have different messaging to see what's going to resonate. So the A/B test part is a tactic. The question, which more specifically is, what data or who do you listen to? I take it all. So there is no one source of truth when it comes to incentive programs. You have to understand, obviously, specifically, what is your partner who is the client? What are they trying to do? So we want to engage our reps more. We want to have them sell a specific SKU list. We want to push a certain product or solution. Obviously, you need to take that information. Then you need to talk to the rep. You got to get data from them. What is going to help them sell? How big is the spiff? Is it is it merchandise or travel? Like, what type of incentive is it going to be, et cetera? So that's just one example where I'm saying you want to take all the data points. And then thirdly, what is the actual end client saying? What is that data as well? Why aren't they buying a specific product or service? So what do we need to do to get them involved? Do we have to get focus group and get more information, like Paul mentioned off the top, to get that sort of information first as well? So my opinion is we need to gather it all. Paul?
Yeah, I think to your point on there's no one source of truth. So I think at the end of the day, there's still experimentation, right? You still have to, first of all, have that clear, we've mentioned this a couple of times, what is your goal? What is it that you've outlined as a strategic objective for your business, for you as a business unit, for example, and pulling information from secondary research online that you've gathered, things like Forrester or market intelligence, and then cross-reference that with what are people actually saying? What are your customers saying? What are your partners saying? And then, of course, your field team's really important. I think they're underutilized. What are partners telling them? And to your point, Brooke, A/B testing is a tactic, but attaching an incentive to one thing and not another, and seeing what happens.
Absolutely.
Or seeing if if there's a specific new product launch you're doing, attaching an incentive to that versus not the rest of your portfolio, and running that for a period of time and seeing what happens.
And just to close the loop before, because I see there's another question that's come up, just to close the loop as well, which is super important if you're running your channel incentive programs and your campaigns, and you're getting this data. Don't be inflexible. Be flexible. Don't go in the mindset that, oh, I know what's going to work, or we gathered all this data, and so, okay, they told us what to do, so we're going to do it. But when you get data back that's different, embrace it, and then pivot and make your changes. If you're not inflexible, then you fail. That's what I've learned. You can't be the smartest person in the room all the time, right? You got to take what you have, and then how do you utilize that and pivot? So I think, Lucy, we do have another question, I believe. I saw something come up.
Yeah, we just got a question. They asked, what is the biggest sales and marketing data miss for companies with a partner program are making?
Biggest sales and marketing data miss.
Data miss, yeah.
Yeah, Paul? What's the biggest sales?
One of the things that I think we touched on a little bit as well is sales reps, channel partner salespeople have a lot to say, and they go unheard a lot of the time. Yes, there's very loud voices that might take over the room, but they do have a lot of qualitative information that's difficult to get. And oftentimes salespeople are hearing that, and that's the world that they're living in. And someone like you, Brooke, you're getting a lot of secondary information. You don't talk to customers as much as a salesperson would. So I think the biggest data gap there is the consistency of the communication between what are the field reps saying, and how's that information getting back to marketing, getting digested, and then used. So I think that goes back to the point of taking a look at the tools that you have, but even putting cadences in place where you have regular touch points with sales and marketing, ensuring that, hey, some of these loud voices we might want to maybe not act on right away, but be aware of what's going on so that you can compare notes.
Yeah, and you said it beautifully. You were a beautiful soul. You said it beautifully. The marketing data miss is very similar. Is a lot of times clients aren't exactly what you just said, Paul. They're not listening. They're not taking the data. It's like, no, this is the way we're doing things. And so you have so many ways to communicate with your reps: email, social media, through your platform, through their website. So how often are you asking questions to that focus group? How often are you putting out polls and surveys to your client base? Forget your reps. You as the actual manufacturer now that is utilizing a channel. How often are you putting things on social media where you're gathering information? So I think it echoes exactly what you just said, but yeah, I mean, it hits on those points. That's usually a big miss in terms of there's so much data out there, but you got to gather it, and then you got to analyze it, and then pivot, and then act on it. Lucy, are there any more questions? Or are we good?
There's one final question. They ask, what is the best tool you can recommend to collect and analyze data for marketing campaigns?
Oh, I think that's a Brooke question.
It's a loaded question.
We utilize a lot of tools. I don't want to plug other sort of companies because they haven't paid us to do that. But we utilize obviously CRM. You need a strong email tool, and I'm not talking about an email tool that only tells you about what opens you're getting. You need click-through rates. You need the sort of engagement rates through the email to find out bounce rates, etc. Have the type of video tool that I mentioned, a tool that not only plays your videos, but gives you really deep dive data intelligence so you understand what the engagement rate is, how often they're watching that video. Because think about it, you may have clients, forget about hype videos or incentive videos, they have training videos. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these training videos that they're now putting up there. Are the reps watching it? And if so, how long are they watching it for? You can give them back this information. Hey, you got to try different scenarios in your videos, in your training videos. They're not working. You're not getting that. So having a video platform that does that for you as well is super important. And then of course, all, the social media and through the website, using Buffer or like a Hootsuite to sort of amalgamate and manage your social media is super important. So there's tons of tools. If anyone is very interested specifically in the type of tools that we use, happy to have that conversation. And when we send out our follow-up emails, you can reach out to me directly, and I'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you as well.
And the only thing I'd add to that is when you think about the incentive piece, whatever tool you choose to use, just ensure that it's flexible, because there's a lot of tools out there that, as long as you have sources of truth, video platforms, social media, there's all this data being collected. Again, you want to aggregate it into one centralized location so that you can attach an incentive to it and a call to action. So just ensure, do some research and dive into what tools are, give you the flexibility that align with what your goals are. And, from there, you're golden, because it's gonna help you with your resource constraints as well. Because if you don't have these in place, I'm sure people have run into this. Running these programs can take an army. So you want to limit that amount of work and burden on yourself if you have the right tools in place.
Awesome. Paul, you said this was going to be hard. This was easy. Come on. So cheers to you, and thank you everyone for joining us.
And cheers to everybody.
We appreciate it. Cheers to everyone. And Paul, just let everyone know what's coming up for next month, our next webinar.
Yeah, so we're going to be planning, session number 3, topic to be announced. So along with, an example of a poll and a survey that we send out, and the type of information that you can consider extracting from your channel, and also maybe the type of incentive. On top of that, we're going to send out our recipes.
Cheers.
So enjoy for the fall. And thirdly, there's a little bit of a surprise for everybody that's attended and registered. We're going to send out a quick little poll or even a survey to get information from you guys on what's working best in your incentive program. What is it that you see as the biggest challenge? And we'll have some prizes available.
Awesome. Great. Cheers,
Cool.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Cheers, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thank you.